Pick. Mike Pick is one of our animals. He's the one you have to feed raw meat and rusty nails to. He's a killer, this guy. I mean, he can be a killer. If I point, he'll go kill somebody if I wanted him to. You met Mike. Powerful little guy. He's a real nice guy. He was stuck with a bayonet in the Vietnam War. And he had his right foot forward when he was stuck by the guy. And what did he do? Did he cover with the left foot? No. He moved away from, was able to slip the blade out of his back, and then encountered and killed his opponent. But that was what saved his life. And when he came back from Vietnam, that was one of the primary topics of his discussion. How his knowledge of learning how to properly cover saved his life, and that's why he was back and alive to talk about it. So minor, yeah, but it's big. In his case, it saved his life. And he's gone the other way, which is a normal reaction that I'm not going to mention any name, Shotokan people do. That's fine. Or Taekwondo. You know, in the States, we have a big joke. Because of the limited knowledge that Taekwondo has, and then giving out black belts in nine months, the fact that they have very little to offer, we call it take one's dough. They got nothing to offer except to take your money. So that's what Taekwondo means, take one's dough. 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, when I was with Lee Redlake, he came up with another very little classic tidbit. He says, you know, Taekwondo, the martial arts, not the martial arts, but the partial arts. I'm not condemning them in any way. What happened this past weekend when I was with you in terms of Taekwondo people?
Yeah, a couple schools around.
They totally quit Taekwondo and shifted over totally to Kenpo. Totally. Because they realized that even with their art, we, because of the principles that we're familiar with, using our hands and feet, we're able to polish them beyond their imagination and improve their kicks. And they couldn't understand how come we were able to tell them how to improve what they had when their instructors couldn't do it. Because they lack a knowledge of principle and its application and the methods of tailoring.
So back in the cholesterol. Now step back forward. Move. Step side. Move. Move.
Okay, I see going back before we come forward. Your head, okay, think of a spear directly back of your head. Are you going to move into the spear and say, that feels good to have a stick in my skull? Huh? Think of that. I don't think you'd love it, would you? And that's why a lot of times I see these guys kicking in Taekwondo and somebody's like, what do? They bring their head down when they kick. Have you ever seen that? Why is it that we don't wish to bring the head down? Did I make that analogy about the surgical rubber band? You remember the surgical rubber band? Yeah. See, you have to keep your head up. That's why I like to devise, and one of these days I will, a special leather neck. Okay, that has a piece of steel that comes out and a sharp dagger. That comes here. So that when they go this way when they kick, hopefully it'll come out through the chin.
That's how you used to practice forms with a pencil. But in here, you check right there.
Well, yeah, it is. So you're getting the habit. Okay.
All right, you can step right forward. Move. Move. Move.
First is the idea of a step drag. You ought to step forward with what foot? In this case? Okay. Okay, and you're widening the what? The depth of your stance. Immediately after you widen it, what do you do with your right foot? Okay, you shuffle it toward you so that the same distance in terms of depth reoccurs again. So whatever distance you had before the initial step, after the drag, the same distance of depth reoccurs again.
Okay. Move. 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 Move.
Much better. You know, you guys might not see the difference. But from the time we started to now, with the bad habits that some of you have, being unaware of it, there's a vast improvement between then and now. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. And it's just a matter of grilling yourselves. Look for these finite points that we oftentimes overlook.
Move. Move. Reverse. Boop. 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 One more thing about chances as we go on, before we go on to the chances. Come forward and do a front crossover. Good. You're pretty good. He's a good strong boy, right? No doubt about it. I chose him because he's the most obvious. Now I'm going to put my one finger right there. All right, now you do your crossover. One finger. All I had to look at.
We're very nice. We have the finger on horizontal plane on the rhythm.
Look at this. See, look at his stance all the time. He's moving like this. That's how you're moving. Now, how are you going to get the structural reinforcement of your body? The bones and muscle, everything. That's why one of the reasons that for you again, short your stance. Just keep close to that. Bending. There's where the muscles and the bones are in line to there. Right? When it puts drag at the back end, there's absolutely nothing coming off the back foot. And if you can do it now in a crossover, how are you going to do it in a drag step and have any additional force in your body momentum?
Yeah, because what did we say about the difference between a drag step and a front crossover? Remember the? You remember the similarity?
What is a drag step? A half-ass front crossover, using medical terms. Is another half-ass front crossover? Yeah, because a lot of us don't see that. You don't see that, hey, when you go a certain distance, it's one thing, and the other. But in actuality, they're almost identical with slight modifications. As you do a side sticking, double stick on whatever you want to call it. What is that? It's an airborne front crossover. It's the same thing. But yet people butterfly, chicken shit, whatever they want to call it. It's the same thing that you're familiar with. Yet we cannot see the parallel and the similarity. And that's all I want you to see. Alright? It's done. Get up. Push. Get up. Push. Now, right hand in your block. Whoop. 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 Okay, you have to cock it. Put it on the second. You do the white one. Hammer, not a pressure. Block. Texas block. You see from the hip. You see from the hip. This is where we have it. Very razor. Move. Move. Now we have a problem. I see some of you are making a somewhat of a, you're going to the apex of your circle and your block is taking place on the return of your action. Okay, when we block, as we have discussed this morning, and for those of you who are not there, I would rather you do what we call expression block, where force meets force and does not rise force. When you rise force, then your point X is delayed, and therefore your point Y will be that much closer to your face. Place. Down here on the downside of the circle, therefore the greater point X is point of contact. Point of contact. The point of Y will not be so great. Your margin of error is great. And you need it straight up. Same point X, more point of contact, the greater point 1 will be pretty. That make sense? Okay, so try to crisscross so that you to beat your opponent after you need it as they have accepted it. Beating it, you don't need it. If you delay it, you'll beat you after. Okay, good one. Ready? Look. Copy it, that's what we're going to handle. Look. Move. 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 Okay. How many of you have read Volume 3? Raise your hand. Have you read Volume 3? You don't have Volume 3? The boy has it. Good feeling. In Volume 3, I talk about the special fountain pen that's made by Walt Disney. you mind explaining that about the count? Read the next one. As you continue to gone through them. You imagine? Cube in front of you. The top square. What's starting to top line on the square? The width of your shoulder. How big the square is dependent upon the width of your shoulder. If I had a Walt Disney pencil and was able to draw a line in midair so that that square would be the width of my shoulder, I then want you to top as close to this corner and go kitty corner to this. If that be the case, and this, when you top to block, do you do this? Or do you do this? If you have a knife in your hand, will you do that? You then block. Now, there's that imaginary corner. If you wanted to stick this blade in a corner, would you do that, or would you do this? Or would you do this? How can you stick that blade if that fist is not properly angled? Because some of you are going this. And that's where you're coming back with. Say, hey, I've got a dagger in my hand. I want to stab his arm or head. And in order to stab that arm, my fist has to be at a certain angle. Otherwise, my blade is going to go this way to the target and hit it sideways and not have the effect desired. You can think of this as a useful tool in the formation of your fist. It'll be helpful. Along with that, as I was watching the executioner lock, this is where I see that the light bulb or the ideas are not being carried on in the principle. You were doing punches, you were doing this very well. Like you were doing thrusting action. When we changed your method of execution to a hammering action, you were starting to violate many of the principles that you already knew were supposed to be done. Let's look at it again. Right hand first. One to the ear. Right to the ear. Close as you can to your ear. And two, hammer to the corner. Now, you're missing the corner. If this is the square. There you go. Now, hit it right in the corner. Now, again, this corner is no more than a point of reference. If they can picture, your students can picture this imaginary square and hit to that point of reference, at any given time they can go above that point, below that point, to the left of the point, to the right of the point, short of the point, or beyond the point if they so desire. Okay? And now what have we got when we do that? We got the two plus signs going two-dimensional or three-dimensional. One here, two strikes. One, left hand here, two strikes. Again, everybody right hand to the ear on one. You're going to stab at the corner, two. Now, you already were practicing this. Punch, opposing forces, one hand coming out, but yet you're not using the same idea here. You're taking this hand, it's moving, it's already gone, and then this one's striking. You're not in synchronization. Right? Which would you rather do if you had to fight two guys? One to the front and one to the rear. Block and then elbow this guy? Or block and elbow them at the same time? Okay, let's look at this square here. You're actually going from this corner to this corner to block. I want you to see a plus sign this way. You see what I mean? But also look at a plus sign this way. So that means although this is your point of reference, you can hit short of it, beyond it, above it, below it, to the left of it, or to the right of it. So you have two pluses, whereby one is in one direction and the other is the other. You see what I'm saying? You can see that. This is your point of reference. And you can go short, long, high, low, left, right, from that point. One to the ear, two strikes. Leaving that hand there, one to the ear. No, the hand stays right there. One to the ear, two strikes. One to the ear, two strikes. One, two, one, two, one, two. Okay, with that level of coordination, keep it by the numbers. What you need to do is to get this arm on this line.
soon as possible, you see, to make the triangle. And so you're circling your elbow around. Get this elbow anchored and straight across.
Now what are we following? A geometric path or a geometric line? Geometric path. See, when you do this, and see only this going on a certain line, when you block, as he's pointing out, if you anchor your elbow, it's the whole arm that's coming across as a squeegee. So that if a punch was high and you're going to block and it switched to low, did it allow you room for error? Yes, because you use the path as opposed to the geometric line. So in time, what else does that do? It brings the weight of the arm into your arm. When you do this, the weight of the arm then gets thrown off into space and you have disharmony of direction, okay, which lessens the force.
Okay, just like again. One to there. Elbow anchored, aiming as you come across. Two. Left hand, 1, 2. There. 1, 2. 1, 2. One of Mr. Parker's comments in one of his books is the most common error that he finds that people make on the mistake on the street with blocking is they have their hand loose. Close your fist. Fist closed and blocking. 1, 2. 1, 2. Now, what method of execution are we using? Hammer. And what was the other one we've been doing? Thrusting or snapping, right? So we talked about grafting principles, right? How can you graft the principle? How can you go from a hammer to a thrusting and then a blocking? 1 to there, 2. Now look at your wrist and your little fingers. Keep them closed. You see, this should be straight and back. 3. 3. That's better. Does everybody see that the wrist? Okay, now the left hand. 1, 2. That's better. 1, 2. Don't test Susan in there. Relax. 1, 2. Okay, on the go. Keep the numbers in your mind. Go. Do the 1. Go. 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 Don't shorten it down too soon, Gary. Get back up there for now so you build good habits. Go. Watch your timing. Go. Go. Move. Move. Let's fist close. Move. 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 Go. Now you're stabbing down. Stab straight across the corner of the same square. We're going to work on the top part of the cube. 1 square. As that point of reference instead of down. Okay? Move. 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 Cock of the chair and hammer from here. Why would you hammer if you were here? You thrust. Okay? So you're going from here, bring it down, and then trying to hammer. Or thrust. If you're here, hammer. If you're here, thrust. Okay? Move. Hold your fist. Okay? Move. Move. So your wrist is cocked all the way up in here. Move. 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 I made this analogy earlier today with Lee and a couple of the guys in the dressing room. And some of you guys will hear it. It's probably good at this point to bring this up. When Debussy was talking about Mozart's music, he said, anybody can play the notes. It's the spaces between the notes that make great music. What you have to do when you looking back at all the things that have been added onto your art is make your spaces bigger for a while. Take the time to play the note. Because anybody can make the note. Anybody can throw it in the block. It's the spaces between the notes. You've got to study the space and make sure you're doing it right. That way when you build your chair door, when it's back, it's okay. This again. All right. One more time on the box. Go. Move. The space is big. Move. 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 Put this over there. Move. Better. Wrist, watch the wrist a little bit. Move. 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 All right. Good. Now right in there. Let's take the same hammering idea and do downward blocks. Ready? Move. 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 Twist the hips. Do it again, right hand first. Move. 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 Now all you have to do is remember that we have a cube, right? So you're going to go in the downward block, you have the square, the width the length and the size of the square or the width of your hips. You're going to stab from the midpoint of this side to the midpoint of that side, not the corner to corner. You understand what I mean by the midpoint? Halfway between each corner is the midpoint of each line. You're going to stab from one midpoint to the other midpoint. You're not going to go out past the square one way or the other. You're not going to go from here and here. You're not going to be working with these two corners because you won't meet what? Point X soon enough to make point Y greater enough. All right, again. Move. 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 See? See, these things change when you do them in the neutral. This all stays proportionate to your body. When you step back, you're finding these things. You see? That step is there. Right? Move. 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 Close your fist. Edward, don't turn your shoulders. Move. Move. So your wrist should be straight. Because you don't, remember we mentioned about doing this. Don't you can apply the same ideas to other spots, what you might have to do with the dimensions that you're operating with a guy, you know, he's on the ground. It's flowing this way, or it's flowing that way. Move. 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 Using the same idea, going back up to the upper square, the reverse motion of it is an outward block. Midpoint to midpoint. Move. 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 Hold your fist, Edward. Move. 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 Now, what you should think about is, remember the squares? Right up here? And when you draw from this point to this midpoint, what do you get? By drawing a line? Two. No, no. Two. On an outward block, you get 2 lines. Two rectangles. The point is, that's only a point of view from what? The top point of view. What do you get from the side view? What geometric pattern? Huh? Not just an arc, but a circle. Right? Circles, squares, and triangles make up our entire art, and they make up all the basic elements of physical life. There are no other elements of physical life other than combinations of circles, squares, and triangles. It's that simple. But sophisticated. Right? So the point is, if you look at that and you start doing these in 3 dimensions in your mind, you've got the universe there. You just draw it. Ready? Move. 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 Good. Move. Move. Now going out from this corner of your cube, starting from this corner of the cube, going out to this corner of the cube, you're going to make the extended outward block. Right? And the hand on this part of it is going to stay at the inside corner of the square. Right? Move. We're talking about it now. Right? Move. 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 This is it. Now it's not bad, but I see some mistakes. On the block itself is executed in the corner, and the angle of execution is good. The fist is close, that's good. But you've forgotten one basic idea. Now let's watch what we'll use it. Send it out of the block. Move. Watch again. Move. Slow. Move. Real slow. Move. Can you tell me what he's doing different? Can you see the basic error in his movement? Maybe that, right? In the motion. Move.
He's crossed his hands.
That's okay. Move. That. That's right. When you're executing the newer block, right? What ones you come on the outside?
And why?
And why? Which angle to the outside?
Huh? Okay. Now that's a good point that I stressed for
You
you.
live in the right hand, not in the left.
No. Doesn't matter. Sir. Okay, yeah. What is, I have a piece of chalk. As I do my outer slot, what is this chalk now forming? Circle, right? Maybe this. What is it forming? Circular. Okay? And the minute I do this, and I go on the inside, is my circle as wide as this? It's short. So now you can find the circumference of the circle and see the framework of your arc. This way you can go wider than the circle if need be. The other way you restrict yourself in terms of how big the circle can be. If you think by staying on the inside, you just have a short circle that goes through.
So you're limiting the circumference of the circle. See that idea? Something like we're doing that. Using that with one hand is okay, the other hand wasn't. All right? You get it? First. So we're going to set it out with blocks. Move. Now the left. Move. Move. Gary, watch the left hand. Now the right hand. Move. And watch the left hand. Put it on the outside. Move. Move. Generally speaking, the greater the circumference you can take, as you increase the circumference of this movement, as you move become more offensive or defensive. Offensive, I'm saying. And therefore, if you always keep this on the inside, all you can do is defense. Move. 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 I'm not sure that example got across. Mr. Bartlett does this all the time, right? Blocking this way here increases the circumference of the circle, allows you to go offensive. So if you're trapped on the inside on your motions, right? How can you be? What? How can you increase the circumference of your circle? Here I can, you see, but here I can't. I can't increase the circumference of this. And now I can increase the circumference of that. And so I can get offensive as well. Right? This hand. Just get extended out with block. Move. 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 Watch those little fingers popping out. Right? Trademark of Kenpo, people. Move. Move. Move.
People see me do it, and you know why I'm doing it? Because I have a broken finger.
You like that?
My finger is busted. I can't close it. So they all mimic.
Right? Listen to this. Now, just to take it back to the interrelationship of principles. Right? Let's do an uppercut punch. Ready? Move. We're doing uppercut punch now. Uppercut. Move. 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 Now do a roundhouse punch. Move. 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 Are you still contouring? See? Contour, right? Elongate the circle. Move. 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 Now take your roundhouse punch, which you're basically doing in a horizontal plane, and do it in a vertical plane. Who's got it? You want to do a roundhouse punch, which you're doing in a horizontal plane, and how to do it in a vertical plane. Now, the whole roundhouse punch. In a vertical plane. Upward block. Exactly. All right. So now you're going this way. See? Right. See? Right. Move. But now you know how to do upward blocks, right? You only labeled it that, only because what? Remember, this motion has no meaning until you have contact on somebody's body. You haven't even given it a function. So you know how to do this, you see, that's the whole point. In tying the principles together instinctively. That is, if you have to do this move correctly, only to do it correctly when you call it an upward block in your mind, you're going to have problems. Because you've isolated this whole physical movement and all the knowledge behind it from this physical movement and all the knowledge behind it. And they're not together. You see? When this is nothing more than this. You see, done in that plane in your mind, all you ever do is punch, 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 punch on the street. You know? But when I get to here, I grab it, and I break his arm. And when I get to here, I punch. And when I get to here, I walk his arm. Because the distance is done. You understand the importance of that? There's other ways to approach it. Where we're trying to a little bit shorter time, right? Just a hamster. Try it again. Move. In which case, it will be imperative what? That your wrist is straightened back. Because you wouldn't punch with the bent wrist. So don't block with the bent wrist. Because the block is nothing more than a redefined punch. Right? From offense to defense. Move. 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 See your wrist? Move. 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 Again, contour, 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 planes go up the middle. What about reverse? Right. Come down the middle. So you're going up like this and coming down like this. You see? Move. Move. Wrist closed. Wrist straight. Move. 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 Move.
Okay, relax. Let's go over and discuss the reverse motion from the outer block. Okay? Down the house, please. Remember we discussed about forward movement and reverse movement, and the value of reverse being an intro move before the major is executed, or you want to put it in another way, saying that we go into the reverse and how the pride is going to be opposite. There's a difference between the two terms, reverse and opposite, in two codes. What is it there? Remember? Right out of the box. Everybody. Right on. Left out. Right out. Left out. We discussed the fact that when you are executing these blocks in the manner which is in alternating tracks, that in essence a reverse movement is being used prior to you going into the opposite moves. The difference between the opposite and reverse is no more than the fact that when you do a right outward block and look at yourself in the mirror, then the opposite to a right outward as you look at yourself in the mirror is no more than a mirror image. So as you look at yourself in the mirror doing a right outward block, what does it look like inside of the mirror? A left outward. So the opposite of a right outward is a mirror image of it. Okay? But as we discussed in the past, as we're coming outside, we're now lengthening the circle of our counterpart in action. Okay? Yet, when people punch, block. They now only block with the opposite. And they now confine their movements to shorter circles. When in essence, it's not the returning move of an outward block, an inward block, prior to your going to the opposite. This is what we call a double factor. This is your returning move or reverse action being used as an interim move prior to your opposite move. So it's inward out, inward out, inward out. Now, if she decided she still would like to use an inward outward outside of the right, could she still use it? Now what happens? It becomes easier because you don't have to reach as much. The distance and space is so close, it becomes easy to use it. Okay, now if this be the case, in our development of reverse motion to be an interim move, then would it not also stand true of using opposite movements and reverse movements in the upward block? No. If she blocked me this way, and I shot to her face before she came up with the opposite, would she not follow and retrace the path to block this before she comes up and then takes that? If you can reuse reverse motion in the algebra, would it also not be true of reverse motion in terms of an upward block, where now it becomes an interim block before your opposite block takes place? That's correct. So these are the reasons why we want you to see the value of reverse motion. And if it's true of one type of block, try to make it true of another. So your reverse motion is in fact useful. Okay. Then I'm going to have him touch on some other subject. Are you about to conclude this?
I should be able to move this right for coordination.
Well, I just wanted him to take another subject. Right?
Okay, fine.
Okay. So we're tired of one. If you want to.
Want to get a drink of water? Take a break for a second? Come over and be in another country. I don't think too many people get that opportunity, so I really need to do that. Okay, that's it. I saw a couple things I want to tie in, but a couple things here. Number one, everybody in training course again? While I'm watching some blocks or punches, one, there's a difference between a vertical punch and a horizontal punch. Likewise, roundhouse punch. Roundhouse punch, vertical roundhouse punch. A lot of you didn't seem to know the difference. Some of you were doing a roundhouse punch, which I myself also fell victim to. What is a roundhouse punch? Think about it. This is a what? Vertical roundhouse. Just like the difference here and here. So when you pay attention to your basics, some of those little things again are what the finite points are that make things clearer. So if you do a regular punch here or an inverted, same thing, vertical roundhouse. The next point too is everybody do a single punch. Right hand. Okay, punch. Okay, how's the formation of the hand? What is the body alignment of the wrist? Straight, correct? Okay, does this position deviate in any of the blocks? The inward, the vertical outward, extended out, or downward? Yes, no? Watch it. Now I'm talking just specifically the wrist. It doesn't deviate. It stays just like
this in terms of this portion here, right? Okay, inward block to the right then. Block. Okay, is it the same, or do you have your wrist caught? See the curvature? Because you know, you leave it there and just straighten out your arm. What did you get? Would you punch like that? You'd want to keep this the same. So I use the example of the punch. Whenever you do an inward block, it should be this way. Okay? Now, vertical outward block. How about this? Common error, correct? Everybody does that kind of thing. This is the way it is. Okay? Just like a punch. Why?
No, it's not an error. It's part of the design of your action and the follow-up. So it can be every depending upon the intention of use.
Okay, this in terms of an embryonic basic, we want to stress this, right? But down the road, what are you going to do? Are you just going to block? What are you going to do after you block eventually? You're going to punch or roll or something, right? So you want the design to be intentional versus accidental or improper to start with. Okay? Extend it outward now. Okay? Now watch your elbow so the elbow doesn't rise up too. Keep the elbow anchored. A lot of the anchoring needs to be set. Just like in the salutation here, a lot of people go out this way. The design is to try to continually remind that you keep your elbow down and anchored. This way, a lot of the blocks, guess what was happening? A lot of flexion this way. A lot of the arms are bent back. The problem with that, anatomically, is when your hand is back here, the flexion is happening on the top part of the arm, not the bottom part, which is where you want to reinforce your block. If you feel your arm back here, it's going to be weaker on this side than this side. The power doesn't need to be worked on the back, it needs to be on the front where you're blocking. So when you block this way, you're actually depleting power, which is breaking one of the principles, which is efficiency. Okay, you're breaking your efficiency because you're not hitting with the proper body alignment. Okay, so it's important to know which way the arm's tensing from that respect. Okay, upward block left. And look at your hand. Okay. Downward block. And look at your wrist.
There's not a
Okay.
downward block. Looks like a punch that we delivered in that angle.
Okay. See your wrist? A lot of you are straightening them out now, which is great. But make sure you don't get injured. I know a lot of you, you're particularly, following subject to that. And please also understand that if I, myself, Skip, or anyone points out something, absolutely nowhere are we picking on you or trying to embarrass you or anything like that. It's just merely, I feel very guilty myself if I watch something and I see something that I feel is really bad or a break in the rules. If I allow you to continue to do it, I feel I'm just as guilty as you are because I didn't point that out. So these are reasons why I want
We're not
needs to be
constructive criticism, but doing what? Corrective adjustment.
okay. Also keep your elbows slightly bent. Don't let it go all the way out and hyperextend. Okay? Same thing. So the punch and all the blocks. So be very critical of the proper positioning
Let's
of your blocks.
go back to that very point. Could I have a volunteer, please? Thank you very much, Gary. I appreciate you raising your hand.
Come on, Gary.
Okay. Let's go back.
The other left foot.
Yeah. Okay, Gary had punched me in lockdown. Okay. When he's at his full extension or hypertension, okay, I want him to prevent me from pushing his hand out with my one finger. I'll prevent me from forcing it out. I can do this out. Now he slightly punched and again came with a slight bend. There's no way to push it. There's that slight bend. Okay, now fortifies pocket. Okay? And the idea is this. Clenching. You feel the pressure on this. Open your fingers all over. You feel it as much. No. Why? What's it happening? Remember we talked about in the latest safety feature of the car is to have one impact, a balloon coming from the dashboard to prevent you and cushion. what you're doing here when you close is it's like a balloon. It's closed. When you open it, it's like a balloon. And it really fortifies you a lot more. Okay? Likewise in Aikido, they have you do this. That's same, right? You unbend the arm. But when you clench your fist, you just go, clench your fist and directly from the middle. Now watch this. Okay? Now extend your fingers all the way. Now why is there a difference? See, they talk about mind over matter. They're tricky here. It's kinesiology that's being taught. When you clench your hand, you unlock the muscle. You open it. You lock it. It's no big deal. When you extend, you have slight bend. You're strong. Okay? This is very important that we remember these things because when you tell the Aikido guys, we play that trick on you. Remember another time. The guy said, bend my arm. Got hit right in the middle. Well, you never said it. Right? You know, right there, the guy moved and he bent the arm. Well, you weren't supposed to do that. You never said it. You know? Okay? And it's just tricky, okay? How many of you are familiar with the Aikido move where you put your hand and put pressure? You know that? Know that? No, they put the hand on top. Then they go out and they go back. Okay? Put your hand. All you gotta do is go, okay, match it. That's all you gotta do is match it. No way you're gonna do that. I mean, in judo, the hip throw. Let me know the hip throw. Super. Put it in your palm. Right on the hip. Put it in there. And nullify and cancel out the movement. Okay, what is an obtuse triangle? You know what an obtuse triangle is? Where one end is longer as opposed to the other. Okay, do a hip throw.